Now, in the world we live in today, I think there's so many times when we put up barriers because of the things we did yesterday. There are times when we have doubt because we say, I know who I am. Maybe you don't. Maybe I put on a pretty good front. Maybe I seem like a pretty good person. But I really know at the core of my being who I am. And as a result of that, I ask myself, how could God really use me? We put up these barriers. But I think we need to look at this passage this morning and understand very clearly that it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter who I am and the fact that I know at the core of who I am that I'm not the best person in the world. What I want us to understand by looking at this passage this morning is if you are willing, if you are obedient, God is calling you to say, by saying, come follow me. Come and do what I've laid out there for you to do. I have a work for you. See, not only did Jesus call Matthew, but he included him in a group that would change the world. A group that would change the course of history. I mean, he had a lot of different followers, fringe people who were following him around. It's like these people go on these concert deals and say, hey, we've been to 19 concerts in the last 19 days, and we followed Fish from Boston to Miami. I'm like, that's awesome, man. Do you like to hear the same song every night? I have this thing called a CD, and I listen to them all the time, But I guess that's kind of the way they were. They had these people that were, just kind of hanging on, and they were good people and good followers. But if you notice, as Jesus is writing, or as the Bible's being written, and they talk about Jesus, they'll say some of his followers, and then there are specific at times saying that there are the 12, and there are different numbers. See, it's not that Matthew was just called to be one of the ones who was kind of out here. Jesus said, I want to invite you in to be a part of this group that's going to change the world. Look at Matthew 10. It says, Jesus called the 12 disciples together and gave them authority to cast out evil spirits and to heal every kind of disease and illness. Here are the names of the 12 apostles. First Simon, also called Peter, then Andrew, Peter's brother, James, son of Zebedee, John, James's brother, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew, the what? The tax collector. And what did this calling mean to who he was? It meant that he left that life behind. It meant that he left that job, those names, those labels that had been placed on him for so long. He left all of that behind, and this is what he became. He became a disciple, an apostle of Jesus Christ. He wrote the book of Matthew. He was a missionary taking God's word to so many people, and if we read history, we see that he died as a martyr. He thought so much and believed in this idea so much that he gave his life up for Jesus. And I want us to think about how many of us, how many people in this world are impacted by him today. Because you read through the book of Matthew, and you see there that in Matthew 28, Jesus called his followers together. He said, I want to give you this great commission. And that is, I want you to go out and I want you to tell people about me. We see the Great Commission there. We see in the writings of Matthew how we can become saved. So today people open up this book, they read his writings, and they understand how to connect with Jesus in a way where they can be saved. They understand how they receive their purpose in life. And it goes back to a person who had been rejected in society, a person that many people had absolutely nothing to do with. Now, I want us to think on him, on his life for just a moment. I want us to think about how he used the influence of being in the circle for others. We're going to notice here in just a moment about the idea of who all was at that gathering, and we're going to apply that in a different way to our lives. But it says after Jesus called him, that he said, hey, I want you to come to my house. And I want you to hang out with me and have a meal. And who was there? Other tax collectors. So you got to think about this. When Jesus calls us, we're still probably going to have the same friends that we had before. So it gives us a wonderful opportunity to share his word with those people who were just like us. And you look, you wonder how many of those people over time who were just like him, who were rejects within society. You wonder how many of those people he was eventually able to lead to Jesus. And see, what I want you to see in that is this. God has convinced us that we are good enough. God has convinced us that He loved us. God has said, okay, I sent my Son. I gave Him for you. You placed your faith in Him. You baptized into a relationship with me. I add you to the church. The Holy Spirit comes and lives within you. You're forgiven of your sins. I mean, there's so many blessings as a result of that. My life starts to become better. I start to change. I start to be a person who is about the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, all those different kinds of things. People see that in me. And my friends start to look and say, man, what's up with you? You are a different person. You've changed. You really bought into this. You are really doing what God has called you to do. And then guess what I do? I reach out and talk to one of them. And then I reach out and talk to another. And they become followers of Jesus. And the whole idea, this is it, folks. This is what I'm trying to get in my own life right now. And this is what I'm trying to help us all to see. This whole thing is an ongoing cycle of God saying, okay, I want you to be a part of my body. I want you to live your life for me, but it's not enough there. It's not enough for us just to go through this life and have the assurance that on the other side we're going to be saved. God is saying, I want you to use your life to pull people into the circle in the same way that I pulled you into the circle. Make a difference with those who are firefighters that you fight fires with every day, who are teachers that you teach with every day. Whatever it is that you do, the people that you come into contact with, pull them in the same way that I pulled you in. And folks, that's where we've got to have a mindset change as the body of Christ. I'm not talking about just the church at Rome this morning. I'm not trying to get on you, or I'm saying as the kingdom. Because somewhere 50 or 60 or 70 years ago, we got this idea in our heads that it's cool to just go and sit on a pew 3 or 4 times a week, and that's what God wanted us to do. Well, the reality is, He never said just go and be at that place. He said go and be in the world. Amen. Go and be who I have called you to be. Let your light shine every day, everywhere that you are, because we have to reach out and give people God. In the same way that Matthew pulled some of those people in and brought them to a knowledge of Jesus Christ, you need to ask yourself the same thing. And you need to see how Matthew's life is making a difference today, 2,000 years later. And you need to see how your life can make an eternal difference to someone. I mean, think back on the stuff that someone taught you. I think about 2nd grade, Miss Randall. She taught me how to write in cursive. Guess what? I don't even use cursive anymore. So, 2nd and 3rd grade, they've never even taught her that. But I remember her teaching me that. I remember her teaching me how to write. And we did that over and over again. You know, remember those sheets? You know, C, 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 something like that. I get it, all right? Big C, little c. But I remember that. Although it's not doing me a lot of good now because of what I do every day. I'm tired. You think back on life, and who taught you how to fish? Who taught you how to hit a curveball? I mean, those things are cool. And it's neat because sometimes it's our grandfather or it's our grandmother that taught us to do those things. And we have wonderful memories tied to that particular thing that we do. But guess what? I'm 41. It's been a long time since I hit a curveball. And I didn't hit many when I was trying. But think about being able to be the person that someone looks to when we get to heaven and they say, "See that guy? It's because of him that I am here today." And that's the magnitude of it. We can make an eternal difference if we just will. If we'll just see the opportunities that are there for us. When I talk about stuff like this, I like to give some practical application. And I want to show you a couple of guys that I've been able to be blessed by in this life that were the result of one person caring. First one is Jim Briggerhoff. And do we have the pictures, guys? All right. You can go to the internet and probably get one. Anyway, Jim Briggerhoff was the student minister at Auburn University for 30-something years. Let me tell you about Jim. He was the guy who moved to Auburn to go to school from Connecticut. And one day this guy said, okay, we're having this little campaign here, and we're going to go in and do some stuff, and we're going to go to the dorms and knock on doors. There's a door at the end. The guy said, man, I'm kind of tired. I'm knocking on all these doors, nobody's here. A lot of people are still in class, a lot of people are out doing stuff. He went down there and knocked on that door. And Jim answered the door, and he gave him a flyer and said, hey, we're having this campus thing, would you like to come? He said, yeah, I guess so. So Jim went, he went again, became a Christian, stayed at Auburn, worked there until the Lord called here enough to make a connection with him. Willie Franklin is another one, another person that I know. And I've shown you, I've told you stories about him before. He's had a tremendous impact on my life. He's an evangelist, and he's been all over the world. He's literally baptized thousands of people, led a ton of people to a closer relationship with Jesus. Former NFL football player, had a lot of good things going for him. But he was an angry young man. When this guy came to him and said, hey, I'll talk to you about Jesus. And Willie's about 6'3". He's right now probably about 63 years old, still about 250. He's still got the brick-looking chest. Looks like he could go out and probably still play in the NFL. So I can imagine what he looked like when he was 18, 19, 20 years old and confronted by this guy. So he starts to really give it to him and starts to throw some hard questions out at him. And that guy talks to him and he's patient with him. And he loves him. And he doesn't jump back at him when Willie throws something his way that's offensive. And finally, this manner that this guy had about him, there was something about it. I've done what I can to throw stuff at you that's hard. I've insulted you. I've gotten on you hard. And you continue to love me and continue to reach out. And you continue to come back to me. And it wasn't long before that guy was lowering Willie Franklin into the water. He's been all over the world and brought thousands of people to Jesus Christ because of one person caring enough to bring him into the circle. Now, I want to say this about both of these situations. Because a lot of times, whether or not we do something in life is determined by how popular it is. Now, how popular was it for this young man to go to Jim Briggerhoff's dorm and knock on the door? It wasn't very popular. You know why? Because he's in the South. Jim is what? A Yankee from up north. He's different. In the Midwest in the 70s, a huge black man. How popular was it for a white man to go to him and talk to him and try to share the gospel? Not very popular because of everything that was going on with the racial tensions of the time. But see, the fact of the matter is, these two individuals who I will never know this side of eternity both stepped across that line of being comfortable and said, I don't care who you are, I don't care where you're from, I don't care what color you are, I know what God has called me to do, and today I'm stepping across that line of comfort, and I'm going to invite you to come and know Jesus. And that's where we get into the practical application part of our lesson today. Matthew 25 verse 35 once again says, I was a stranger and you invited me in. And that's what I want us to look at. We've got these gatherings coming up starting next week, and we'll be at our house and Grandma's house and a lot of other places. And this is what I want to ask you. Who are you inviting to that gathering? Well, it's family time. Yeah, it's family time. That's why we need to invite people there. Because, see, there are people who are hurting. There are people who are lonely. There are people who are struggling with their marriage. And when they come in and they can see God's family, both in a physical sense and a spiritual sense, and how they function and how they love each other and what it's like to be together, then we give them hope. So I'm asking you, who are you inviting to the gathering? Because this is a great place for us to start. Inviting them in for Thanksgiving, inviting them into our lives, inviting them into our homes. You go back to our story here in Mark chapter 2, and where was it that Matthew invited Jesus to attend the party in Matthew's house. Look at this in verse 15. Later, Levi invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. There were many people of this kind among Jesus' followers. See, as I said earlier, Matthew wanted his friends to meet this guy who had done something with his life, who had invited him to a greater way of life. And he introduced them to Jesus in his home. In his home. And this is what I want you to think about. I remember going over to 110 Turner Chapel Road, and Kristen, we stood at that back door, and she said, all right, now put on your rose-colored glasses before we walk in. We walk in this place, and it was a dump. You know what I'm saying? It's been abandoned for about a year. It looked like 57 3-year-olds had lived there for 6 years. I mean, because there's just stuff just thrown up on the wall. I mean, literally behind the stove, anything that boiled up and kind of popped on the area behind the stove, there's like, I mean, it looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. You know what I mean? Just a little bit of splatter here and stuff. So she said, put on your rose-colored glasses. And I did, and I saw that it had good bones, and we worked and made it into a home, and that's where we've lived since we've been married. And one night we were there, and we'd only been in the house 2 or 3 weeks, and I remember Kristen saying, hey, you know, we're going to wait a while and save up money for a down payment. And we drove by this place, and it was a foreclosure, been on the bank books for over a year, and they said, hey, if you'll take it off, you can have it for what it's worth. I mean, you can have it for what we've got in it. You don't have to have a down payment. We just want it away from us. So we were the suckers. And we took it. But she said, God gave us good health. And she said, I think He is saying to us, we got to invite people in. I gave you this, use it. Invite family, invite friends, invite people from the community in. Get a relationship with them. That's one thing I'm so thankful for about my wife. She's taught me that, to use that home in a way where it's a tool of God. And I'm asking you, what about you? Folks, we got to be hospitable. We got to open our homes, open our doors. We live in such a closed society. I mean, we go to places and you can't get to the house because there's a gate there. And then when you get to the house, you can't get in the house because there's a garage with a door, and then, you know, they got a security guard outside. You got to put your thumb up, your thumbprint, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, we live in such a society where people are just blocked off. And the reality is, we put ourselves out here every day, and God is saying, I want you to tear down some of these barriers. And one of the ways we do that is by inviting people in. I read a book not long ago, and I told you some of this, about the importance of the meal. The book was called Living the Resurrection. And Eugene Peterson said in the book, I want you to understand how important the meal was in the Bible. He talked about just before Jesus was crucified, they did what? Had a meal. After he's resurrected in Emmaus, they have a meal. He's restoring Peter. What's going on? There's a meal there. And the whole idea is, he said, a ton of what we do is centered around the meal. So when you have the meal, what are you doing? First of all, are you sitting there just by yourself with your family? Or have you invited someone else in? A co-worker, someone that you know, a teenager down the road who may go home and have dinner and might not. So you invite them in and you do your thing. How are you doing the meals? But not just who's there, but what's going on there. Because we can sit around all day long, right? I mean, what are we going to talk about today? The fact that Auburn's terrible. You know, it just is what it is. Georgia beat us yesterday. I'm frustrated with that. Ronda Rousey got knocked out last night. I mean, knocked out. I don't know if y'all seen any of those pictures this morning, but I mean, what can we talk about? Man, I'm freezing. It's 32 degrees last night. And for 30 years or 40 years, we sit around the table and that's what we talk about. And God gives us these children and the friends of the children and our friends and neighbors who come and join us. And what if we were taking some time and saying, hey, as we have this meal tonight, I want to catch up with you and I want you to tell me what God is doing in your life. I want to invite you in and we commune together and I want to share with you what God's doing in my life. I want to talk to you. I know you're down and out. I know you're having some trouble right now, but I want to talk to you about what God can do for you. I want to tell you the places He can take you to. And see, we got an opportunities right now. I sent you the email this week. Mark Leach is a friend of mine down in Atlanta. He's trying to place about 75 foreign exchange students in some homes for Thanksgiving. All we got to do is just let them stay for a couple of nights. But are we going to have an opportunity through that? I don't know. We might not. But we can show people how Jesus lived, how Jesus has called us to live. We may not be able to share Him with them. We may not be able to send them back to where they're from with Jesus. But we can tell them about Him by the way we treat Him. You got that sheet of paper that you're given on the way in, and I want you to just think for just a moment. You don't have to do this right now. But I want you to write down a list of people you can invite. People that aren't family. And hey, this is where we are. We're territorial, right? I'm going to tell you, man, this is the thing. Grandma doesn't like it. Maybe Grandma needs a lesson. You know? Maybe Grandma needs to be a little bit more hospitable. This is the thing. If Grandma doesn't want me bringing somebody to Thanksgiving, I don't think Grandma's going to bounce me out of the house, you know? So, just take them. Hey, this is my friend. They didn't have anywhere to go. All right. Well, we're glad you're here. What difference does that make? Just think about who you can invite and write that down. As we talk about this idea in general, not just with the meal that's coming up in a couple of weeks, or next week after next, I guess, but just this idea of inviting people into the circle. I want to ask you this. Are you willing to pay the price to do it? Because when you invite someone of questionable character into your home or into your life, there's going to be some consequences. And are you willing to suffer those consequences if it benefits the kingdom? Because the thing that you're going to do is not necessarily church friendly. Never has been, because in church, what do we want? The nice, cool, calm, collected people who have it all together. That's the people we want with us. So you're never been real church friendly. We'll consider our text here in verse 15. Now, the reason I use Mark, there's a couple of other parallel writings of this particular instance that took place, but I use Mark for a reason. And the reason is because there's a phrase in there that the others don't include, and it's underlined here. Verse 15, later, Levi invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. There were many people of this kind among Jesus' followers. What? Are you kidding me? These people who were tax collectors and rejects were the people that he was calling to him? Those were the people that were in that group that day? I don't know, man. So, what happens here? The Pharisees did what they do. Look at 16. But when the teachers of religious law, who were Pharisees, saw him eating with tax collectors and other sinners, they asked his disciples, why does he eat with such scum? And the thing about it is, that's what happened then, but we need to be prepared for it today. Because the Pharisees were alive and well then, and guess what? They still are today. And one of the greatest ways that Satan uses the Pharisees today is by allowing them to talk to us and place that doubt in our minds about what we're doing with that group of people. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Do you really want to do that? And then all of a sudden we second guess ourselves and we allow society to dictate what we do instead of God. And as a result of them placing that doubt in our minds and our hearts, His work does not get done. But there are three things here that I want you to think about as you consider this idea this morning. The first is this: be prepared for the Pharisees. Because they're going to come. That's the bottom line. I don't care what it is that you do, somebody's going to criticize it. And a lot of those people go to church. A lot of those people who are critics. So just be ready for it. Go into it expecting it. Second thing is this. Ask yourself, do I really want to be like the Christians who are giving me a hard time for doing the right thing? I mean, in your mind, in my mind, I have this group of Christians, and I'm like, dude, this is spot on. This is what I want to be like. These are the people that I want to be like. And then over here, I'm like, nope, that's sliding over here, you know? So do you really want to be like them? If you don't want to be like them, if their behavior is what motivates you to go over here to this group of people who are really doing what God's called them to do, then why let what they say or think bother you? And the third thing, and finally, is this. If Jesus did what I'm doing, then guess what? It can't be wrong. So go into it and say, hey, I'm just doing what my Father did. What my Heavenly Father told Jesus to do. And it can't be wrong. So here's what I'm saying to us. Will you take a chance? Will you get outside your comfort zone? Will you invite people into the circle that maybe aren't comfortable with? That you aren't comfortable with, that others aren't comfortable with? And as we're thinking about this, I want to remind us of what we've been talking about here. We look around this morning. Let's take a minute and do that. We see a lot of people here who are good people, but who are a lot alike. We're primarily a middle-class Caucasian church. And we've been asking God to help us become more diverse. Economically, racially, theologically. And that's what another thing we need to pray about. As we're thinking about this idea of, will I get outside the comfort zone? As we're praying prayers and saying, God, help me to reach out to the people that need me. Also, help me to reach out to the people who are different from me. Because see, what I want us to understand is we need to make a difference. Mark chapter 2, verse 17. Notice this last passage here. When Jesus heard this, he told them, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners. I want you to understand there's someone right now in your life who needs you. I want us to watch this video and then we'll close out our lesson.
As a kid, something as simple as right or wrong, it's right to you because you were taught it. But in the absence of that, even simple things like, what is night about to be like here? What do these people eat? Those questions that kids face establish a lot of those fears of, figuring out kind of your place in the world. Being a foster kid, so much of it's really a survival mentality. It really just takes things down to the basics of just getting through the day. Moving from one place to another, living with different people again and again and again affects your ability to trust. I think of myself kind of at that crossroads of life as probably being a throwaway kid. We weren't juvenile delinquents. We weren't going out looking for trouble. We were just kids, victims of circumstance. Not everybody wants to take in a 13-year-old teenager. Probably rightfully so. Growing up in this scenario, kids face a lot more challenges than a regular kid. I wasn't able to put the word fear to it for a long time, but I remember actually not wanting to have children. Not because I didn't like children, but because I was afraid that I would kind of keep this cycle going. I think seeing it lived out consistently changed my mind about being a dad. Mr. Kathy changed my way of thinking about what I was capable of, or even willing to do. And now I'm a foster dad at the same home that I went to as a Winship kid. Those times were tough, but they made me who I am. And who I am has a special purpose. I guess the tough things of growing up, that's what we can do with it, is to go, okay, there's hope. It takes a little while sometimes, but they all have a glimmer in them that can be redeemed. Family is a place to be loved. And you know, for us, it's mom and dad and 14 kids from a bunch of different moms and dads. Dinner times where we all just get to be family. You know, we can't undo those things, but we can just kind of use it to shape who we become. And now I get to pass on this legacy to all my children. Just really hope some of them catch it.
There are people all around us who need us. Think about the eternal difference you make by inviting them into your home, by inviting them to your table. We're thankful you're here today. We don't want you to leave with a burden if you brought it with you. We've got some prayer partners who will be in the back here in just a moment. You can go to them, you can come here. We'd love to pray with you. If you don't know Jesus as your Savior, we'd love to be able to talk to you about that. Baptize you into a relationship with Him today. We can help you in no way whatsoever. Let me know as we stand and sing.